You want to hear a great story about Jim Carrey?
Of course
One
I
day, Jim Carrey one time, first of all, so one day, actually, it goes back to Kelly Ripa. It was a Friday night, probably about 10 years ago. Kelly Ripa was eating at a restaurant called La Conde Verde in Tribeca in New York City. Very fancy, very nice restaurant, very good restaurant. And I'm waiting. There was a Friday night, 9 o'clock. I could see him through the window, and I needed a shot. At the time, I was working for TMZ, and I just needed a shot just to show that I worked the day. I didn't get anything all day.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, Jim Carrey pulls up, and he's on a date with a girl. It's him, a girl, and a bodyguard. And they see me, my camera, and I didn't put the camera up. I was just like, oh my God, it's Jim Carrey. Like, he's one of those people who's like an enigma. I would never thought I would actually see him in my life.
Right.
And Jim Carrey goes into the restaurant. I see him walk into the restaurant. I see him sitting right next to Kelly and Mark at another table. And they eat dinner, and I'm not shooting through the window. And they finish up first. But the bodyguard brought out the date first into the car. And then he brought out Jim. And the reason they did that, they knew I was a paparazzi outside, and they didn't want to be shot together, which I understand. But they didn't want to. They didn't know what was going on. But I just wanted to get a photo with Jim. I was just such a fan. I was like, oh my God, it's the first time I've ever seen Jim Carrey in person. So girl comes out. I threw my camera in a nearby bush, and then all of a sudden Jim Carrey comes out. I go, Jim, can I get a photo with you? I would love to meet you. And he goes, sorry, man, don't do photos. And he jumps in the car, and I'm standing there, and it's like a wet Friday night at 10 p.m. And all of a sudden he rolls down the window because he sees me not standing without a camera. He goes, hey man, I'm not in the mood to do photos, but I do want to meet you. My name's Jim. I go, hey Jim, my name's Adam. I'm a journalist. I'm a camera guy on the street, but I was waiting for Kelly, but I saw you. I'm just such a fan. I just want to show you how much I appreciate you and I enjoy you. And like I grew up on you. And he talked to me for 20 minutes about my career, about comedy. And while he's on a date with a girl in the car.
I love
that summer, he moved to an apartment in New York City. He lived on Perry Street in New York City. He doesn't live there anymore, but he had an apartment on Perry Street, and down the street he had an art studio. And he'd go to this garage, and it was like a garage, and he'd paint, and he had bikes in there. And we became friends with him all summer. We'd go by, he'd be like, hey, what's up, man? And like invite you inside, show you his art, and just like coolest guy ever.
I love
and then all of a sudden, the funniest part is like years later, I'm waiting outside the Trump Soho Hotel. What was it called? The Trump Soho. It's now called the Dominic Hotel. And the Jonas Brothers are staying there. And the Jonas Brothers staying there. There's about 10 fans waiting outside for the Jonas Brothers. And I'm standing with the door guy, and there's a black Escalade outside waiting for Jim Carrey. But the girls thought it was for Jonas Brother. And all of a sudden, Jim Carrey comes out, and he goes to the girls, Jim Jonas, nice to meet you. And he jumps in the car, and he closes the door. And the girls don't even know who he is. Like, what? Who is that?
What just happened?
And then he rolls down the window and goes, I'm the Jonas Brother no one talks about. And the window goes up. And it was so funny, because I'm not even doing justice, but it was Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey in front of us. And it was just me and the door guy who saw it. And it was just so good. It was probably one of the funniest things that happened to me on the street, because just to see Jim Carrey in his element, like just being funny and silly, was just so, you don't see it.
Yeah, he was the long lost Jonas Brother we all like heard about.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Good guy though. He was the man.
Oh, I love that. I always loved him, but now I love him even more.